Hey everyone, this is Deepak Bari, and in the previous video we have set up the our GNS3 environment for the networking simulation purpose. We have also set up some of the Cisco iOS router. Now in this video we will start with the discontiguous network design. So most of my previous video we have based on the contiguous network. So the contiguous network, that means with using the classful or the classless IP address in the same network or the specific network, but it is not possible to use all the IP address ranges in the same network or the internet or the internet. So we must have to know what is the discontiguous network and why it is important to have the knowledge of discontiguous network. And we will start with gradually by using this scenario. So this is the general scenario of the discontiguous network that we will just going to design about this in the GNS3 simulator. And I hope you already set up the iOS images of this router, and you can use any kind of the iOS image router. So it is not mandatory to use the specific version of iOS image router, so you can use any one of them. So as you can see in this scenario, you can see the different IP addresses are assigned to the different ports of the router and as well as the PC of the end devices. And it uses the different subnet mask. So we will also assign those things in the specific devices. So just need to fire up with the GNS3 simulator and let's get started. Let me minimize this image and open the GNS3. And it seems that GNS3 launches the VMware workstation. So if you have the VMware workstation or the Oracle VirtualBox, so it is mandatory to have the VM optimization purposes. So use the virtualization platforms instead of using the physical device. And let's create a project here and named it as a discontiguous network. And click on the OK button to create a project. Now let's back to the image. So in this scenario, we have the three routers which has the discontiguous or the IP addresses. So each interface like the serial interface and fast interface has a different IP address with the different subnet mask. So let's first do this design. So this scenario suggests we need to take the three routers, three switches and three PCs. So let's take the three routers first. So this is the icon of the router, so you can list all of the images available for the router. So in my case, I'm using the 3745, this router series, and if you have any one of them, so you can use. That's not the worry. So just it's a simple task. Just drag and drop the router on the workspace area. Now come back to that image, and it requires that three switches. And generally, we can have this switch from this icon and take the Ethernet switch instead of any one of them. Just specifically use this Ethernet switch. And while drag dropping the switch, so please choose the server for the GNS3 VM. So whatever you are using for the GNS3 VM, whether the Oracle VirtualBox or the VMware Workstation Pro, that's not the matter. But don't use your physical device and click on the OK button. Like this situation, we just need to repeat this task for the switch 2 also. So we have the three routers and the three switches. Now it needs to have three PCs here, the virtual PCs. So it also assigns with the GNS3 VM. make sure the GNS3 VM is selected. So basically, you need to just repeat this task again and again while tracking dropping something here. Okay, that's fine. Now come back to the discontiguous network picture again. So we have three routers and three switches, as well as the three pieces here, so which we have just dragged and dropped. Now let's minimize this one and rearrange our just stuffs here. Okay, it looks great. Now the next step with that, I hope it's a cabling. So the cabling is just a simple task. So we need to do here, just cable this router with router using the serial cable, and router to the switch and switch to the PC that will connect to the straight copper through cable. So let's do it again, this one also. So for using this serial interface, so use this serial 0 by 0 for the router 1, and correspond to the router 2, we use the serial 0 by 1, and same again for the router, just select the serial 0 by 0 and here the 0 by 1. Okay, one thing, if you can't see the port label, so you can just click on this icon and you will see the port labels here, just like CL0 by 0, and connect to the fast Ethernet 0/0 with the Ethernet 0. Now that looks something good, I think. So finally we have the three routers, three switches, and three PCs, and those are all connected with each other. And what we need to do here, assign a node with the correspond device interfaces. So we will do this also here. So first this one, the 174.16.22.57/30. So making a note here, it's a good idea to keep remember about the network topology and the IP addresses, whatever that belongs to the each interfaces. So that is also helpful. Let's have this IP address 174.16.22. And make sure you type all the IP addresses correctly, otherwise it will raise a problem. Because using the discontiguous network IP addresses and keep remembering it, it's a challenging. I agree. Uh, don't mess with these IP addresses and just use the exact IP addresses because it's already calculated. So don't use any one of the other IP address. So if you don't know about that. Now the next IP address, that is the 164.16.22.58/30, which will assign to this interface. So let's make it also. So 174.62, excuse me, 16 dot. That should be 22.58/30, and this will belong for this interface. Now come to this interface, the first Ethernet 0/0 for the router 1. Let's drag it. So we have the 166.15.26.49, and I think the subnet was the 29. Let's see it again. So 166.15.26.49/29. That's okay. And the IP that belongs to the Ethernet port of PC1, which is 166.15.26.50, which increases the a single IP address that belongs to the host portion. That would be the 50. So keep remember this portion and assign the 50 here, and the 29 that should be assigned as the same. So let's do it for this one also. So 166.15.26.50. Excuse me, that should be /29. Now that's okay. Now let's see again. So we have almost done for this part. So this part I think it's done, and let's come to the next part. So we have the other discontiguous network on the other router interface. So this interface that belongs to 103.15.225.25/30, and the first Ethernet 0/0 that belongs to 201.251.22.1/28. So let's assign this one also. Yeah, take a note on it. Okay, let me just split it out so we can just go fastly. Now it's okay. So this interface 103.15.225.25/30, and 103.15.25, but it should be the 26/30, and this port that belongs to 201, this network, this IP address will assign onto this port, and the IP address for the PC2 for the router 2, this would be the 201.251 dot, that should be the 22.2/28. Okay, one thing that is the typo in this diagram, so just ignore this one. It should be dot here only. That's not the big deal. And come to the next point. So we already assigned a node for this interface, and what we need to do the next step is to assign the IP address for this interface. That is 151.22.25.33/28. So let's assign for this one also. That's okay. And let's assign for this PC interface also. It's really crazy to assign all the IP addresses for the discontiguous network, but it's okay. Now let's make an overview of this image. Yeah, where is that image? Yeah, this one. With this image and whatever we have assigned here. So let's go through it again. So make sure we did not do any kind of mistake in this scenario. So 174.16.22.57/30, that looks okay. And first Ethernet 0/0 that belongs to this IP address. 166.15.26.49/29, that looks okay also. Okay, this belongs to that. That's also okay. Come to the next point, 174.16.22.58/30, and it also looks okay. And come to the next point, next interface for this one, 103.15 to 25 and 25/30. And for the next interface, 103.15 25 26/30, that looks also okay. Okay, I think we have done the part for this discontiguous network design, and you can just align this one like this. Okay, that's not the big deal. Okay, looks great. Now let's move ahead further for this network design. So as we can see, the router has the green lights, so that means these devices are started already there. So on the time the snapshot has taken. So for turning on the each devices or the all devices, so we have the option whether we can see and use this icon to run all the devices, that shows also a start or the resume on nodes. So node that denotes the all the network devices that includes in this workspace area. So and if you just want to start a single devices or the specific devices that you have just been selected, so just select the device and right click on it, and you will see an option to start a device, and you will get all the options regarding that device. Other options like the suspending the device or stopping that and reloading that device, and just all the things, all the steps that related to the specific device, like this one. Okay, so that's not the big deal. So generally we can start all the devices at once by clicking on this start icon. Just click on it, and it will just ask the confirmation dialog whether we want to just start all the devices at once or not. So if you click no, so generally it's a common idea, just it will just disappear, and if you click on the yes, so it will start all the devices. So let's do it. And now as you can see, the all lights has turned to as a green, so that means the all devices just going to boot up and going to start, and I think it started already there. And for getting the console for the each devices, so I've already installed the secured set, and by default the GNS3 installed the solar putty or the some telnet client, so I'm using the my personal one. So just click on this and you will get your own terminal. So one of the great thing about the secure set is the console all the comes within the tab, and we don't need to just switch over and over to the other tabs. So this is the advantages of the secure set. And this console, whatever you are seeing here, it's related to these devices which has been booted up. Okay, let me just this one. So we have the total 9 devices that connected with specifically each other with a specific cables, and we did not yet assign the IP addresses to each interfaces for the each device. So let's have a look on the PC1. The PC1 terminal, that the console that look like it, and this is the general switch, and that's why we do not have the console for this switch. So in order to have the console for another switch, so we need to use the switch like Cisco L2. And in order to sync this router 1, so we have all the console for the router 1. So this is the console for router 1, and consecutively the router 2 for this console, router 3 for this console. So we don't need to just going to over again and again to a specific device to configure the network from there. So this is the advantages of secure set. As you can see, the routers all be booted up. For assigning the IP addresses, we can just use the terminal using the secure set or the solar putty, whatever you are using the GNS3. So let's minimize the secure set. I'm not using for this time now, and I can close it for now because I'm not using it all. And probably you can add if you just run all these devices at once, so probably you will get some performance issues in your PC if you have the limited resources. So that's it's a common, so that's not a big deal. By using the GNS3, make sure you have the specific requirements and the specific and the sufficient resources to have access all the devices. So for stopping all the devices and all the nodes here, so you can generally just go to here and stop single by clicking on that, or you can just use this icon to stop all nodes. So I'm just gonna use this icon to stop all the nodes here, and it will go offline and it will not function anymore. So I think the discontiguous network we have already designed, and we have already seen about how we can start and stop all the our nodes or the devices here. And by using this discontiguous network, we will use the different kind of IP addresses and IP protocols and all the features, I guess, about the iOS, and didn't implement the switch here also. So we will access to it and we will see the pros and cons of the different IP routing protocols. So this was for this video session, and hope you will understand these things and these steps, whatever we will just going to do with the different kind of protocols. On the upcoming video, we will just go through about these things, and we will assign all the IP addresses for the each interfaces, the specific interfaces, and we will also play with different kind of protocols to use the use cases here. So this was all for this session, and if you have any kind of question regarding this discontiguous network session, so you can ask in the below comment box, and you can directly ask me to the Discord server. So thanks for the watching this video, guys, and I see you in the next video.